All right. So here we have an equation with the square root. What do you do?
Square it.
Yes, exactly. So, you know, if you have square root, and if you square it, square and square roots, they cancel. They cancel, right? So if you have anything in here, you're just going to get that, right? So what you can do is, to get rid of this square root, you can square both sides. Square this. Square this. And it's possible to do this because in math, if two things are equal and you treat both sides exactly the same way, the outcome is equal. They're still the same. And the reason you squared is because of this idea. Okay, now you have to be careful here because it's a product of two things, so you have to square both of them. So 2 squared is 4. I'll just write 2 squared for now. And x plus 3 squared, and you get 1 minus 5x squared. This one, let's write it as 1 minus 5x times 1 minus 5x, because I want to FOIL this out, okay? Square means it's multiplied, you're multiplying the same thing again, right? Okay, you have a square root and a square. We just said that they cancel. Nice. Now, see, x plus 3 was together before, so make sure that you don't forget the parentheses. They belong together. And to this entire thing, you're being multiplied by 4. See, if you don't have this parenthesis, then you're going to be ending up writing 4x plus 3, and 3 wouldn't be multiplied by 4. Then you're going to get a wrong answer just because of that. So make sure that when some things are simplified together, you put the parenthesis so that when another number is multiplied, that's going to be multiplied to the entire thing. Okay? So, and 2 squared is 4. That's why I wrote down 4 here. Okay? On the right side, let's see. You know how to expand this. It's FOIL, right? First, 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times negative 5x is negative 5x. Negative 5x times 1 is negative 5x. And then negative 5x times negative 5x. Let's try that. What's negative times negative?
Squared.
Positive. 5 squared is 25. What's x times x? X squared, right? So you end up with plus 25 x squared. Okay. 4 times x, that's 4x. 4 times 3, that's 12. I see like terms. How does this combine? Negative 10x, right? 5 plus 5 is 10, so this. Okay, what I end up with now, it's a quadratic equation because I see an x squared there. So by simply squaring, you end up with a quadratic equation. And that's something that we've worked hard last week. So let's continue with that. Move everything to one side. I'm going to rewrite 25x squared first. Subtracting 4x both sides. Let me use a different color pen. If you subtract 4x both sides, they're going to cancel, and these are going to combine, right? What's that? Negative 14x. In the same way, if you subtract 12 both sides, what's 1 minus 12? Negative 11. Okay. All right, that's a huge number. Let's see. Okay, and unfortunately, you can't factor this, so you have to resort to quadratic formula. So let's use the quadratic formula. Okay, can someone recite the quadratic formula for me?
Negative b.
X equals to?
Negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a.
Unfortunately, this is a long formula, but you have to memorize it. So let's apply this. And I apologize that the numbers are big. So if you are given the time, you should be able to do the computation. I'll just do this on some mental math. So negative 14 is positive 14. 14 squared is 196. Yeah. Doing that, I just know that value, but you can do that, right? 14 times 14, you can multiply that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you're given the time, you can do that, right? And then minus 4 times 25, that will be plus 1100. All over twice of this, twice of 25 will be 50. So that's going to be 14 plus minus square root 1296 over 50. Huh, so you could have factored it. I wonder, huh? Oh, you could factor it. Ah, okay. All right, let me show you the factoring way after this, okay? So I know that this is 30. Okay, well, let's try this one by one. 1296 divided by 4 is 3, then 96. 2, 8, subtract 16. 16 divided by 4 is 4. And that's going to be 14 plus minus. So 1296 is 4 times 324. You got that? Which means 4 can come outside the square root. That's 2. 324. And eventually, 324 is 18 squared. So I get 2 times 18 divided by 50. So 36 plus 14. So you get 50 as over 50 as one answer. And 36, 14, 2, 1, 2. No, 2, 2. Okay. Negative 11 over 25, that's another answer. Okay. Now, I did the last bit of calculation rather quickly because it's quite a long calculation, and I don't want to spend time doing that. I'll just assume that given enough time, you can get this. But let me add another solution, okay? So let me write down the result of this calculation somewhere here. We found out by quadratic formula that x is 1 or negative 11 over 25. Okay, now here's the second method. You do the exact same thing up till you get this. 25x squared minus 14x minus 11 equal to 0. And by the way, I explained this last week, so if you just missed the last week's class, you should definitely watch the videos to learn how to factor this, okay? So the way you do it is, first, think about the product of 25 and the last number. And you want to think about two numbers that, so first, step one is multiply the first and the last. And then think about the middle number. Middle number comes here. And you think about two numbers that add to negative 14 and multiplied to the first times the last. Okay. Can you think of one? What are some pair of
Yeah.
numbers?
25 and negative 11.
Okay, so 25 plus negative 11 happens to be very close to this, right? It's 14. But
Oh,
you need
true.
negative 14, so what
Yeah.
should you do?
Opposite.
You want the negative.
Negative
Yeah,
25
so
and
negative 25 of positive 11, right? If you add these two, what do you get?
Negative 14.
Negative 14. So look, if you choose A to be negative 25 and B to be positive 11, then the product of these two numbers is same as this, because negative 25 times positive 11 is same as 25 times negative 11. Agreed? I mean, it's positive times negative. Positive times negative is negative, right? Same thing, negative times positive, negative. And you get the same value. They both give you negative 265. And then the sum is negative 14. So good. You found out the two values like that. Then the method of factor by grouping does the following. You split this middle number. You say negative 14x. You write it as negative 25x plus 11x, just like that, okay? And you replace the middle number by this. Okay, so let's see. You have 25x squared minus 25x plus 11x minus 11 equal to 0. And compare these two. They're exactly the same polynomial. I mean, it's hard to go from here to there, but if you simplify this, you get there, right? You're making things more complicated before it gets better. That's what's happening, right? So you're making the middle number become a longer number. And only after this, you do something called factor by grouping. You group the first two, you group the second two. What do you get if you factor the 25x out?
25x.
And then what's in here?
X minus 1.
Right. 25x times x is 25x squared. 25x times negative 1 is negative 25x. How about this one?
11.
Yeah. 11 x minus 1. Okay. Now, you see x minus 1 is a common factor, so you can factor that again. Factor the x minus 1. What's left here?
25x plus 11.
Okay. And then finally, you can solve each one of them. And you get 25x equals to negative 11. Divide by 25. So you get one solution. X minus 1 equal to 0. You get x equal to 1. You get another solution. And it agrees with the quadratic formula solution. We use the quadratic formula to get that. Okay. So I would say this is algorithmically more challenging, but with smaller numbers. So it's kind of easier if you know what you're doing. But if this algorithm of finding A and B that's challenging, then you can just use quadratic formula. It's going to take longer time, but eventually you'll get to the same answer, just like that. Okay. Now, it's a rather long question because it doesn't stop here. Actually, the whole purpose of this was not about showing you how to solve quadratic equation. It's this is actually the more important point. When you get a solution with the square root, you get something called extraneous solutions. So beware of extraneous solutions. Okay. What are these? These are like fake solutions. These are things that if you plug in, it gives you the wrong answer. Okay. Sometimes that happens. Okay. So let's plug in x equal to 1 and see what happens. You plug in 1, you get 2 times square root of 1 plus 3 equals to 1 minus 5 times 1. Let's see what you get. You get 2 times square root of 4 equals to 1 minus 5. What's that?
Negative 4.
Negative 4. Is that right? This is positive. That's negative. Can it work? It does not work, right? So this does not work. Therefore, x equal to 1 is what you call extraneous solution. They happen. So whenever you solve an equation with a square root, we're also doing fractions today. If you have equations with fractions with x being in the denominator, sometimes these happen too. You have to be careful about that. So x equal to 1 is not a solution because it's an extraneous solution. And then you try the x equals to negative 11 over 25. And in that case, that's going to be twice of, let's see, negative 11, 75 minus 11, what's that? 64 over 25.
Can you not just assume it'll be the other one? Or should we check
Well,
that?
yeah, unfortunately, sometimes you may end up with something that doesn't exist at all. Yeah, it sucks, but sometimes you might have no solution. And you get 1 plus that, which is, let's see, 5 over 5 plus 16 over 5. And this is indeed true because square root of 64 is 8, square root of 25 is 5, and how do you multiply a number to a fraction? You only get multiplied to the top, right? So you end up with 16 over 5 equal to 16 over 5, so that's good. Okay. So that is a good solution.